Father's Day event. We're ecstatic about each of you all being here. We're going to get started. We have an amazing, amazing host tonight. He is the world-renowned comedian Damon Williams. He's going to come and he's going to take us further. Come on, let's give it to him as he comes. That's right, that's right. Make some noise, make some noise.
Thank you. Don't leave yet, Pastor. Let me get a pastor a round of applause as well. Yeah, come on back up, brother. No, you're not to worry about it. No, it's not that type of party. But I asked him, was it business attire? And he said, yeah, so I didn't know he was going to be dressed alike. Okay, now you can. We got on the official Father's Day uniform. And this is going to be interesting, too. I wish I could say some goofy stuff, but the mayor is here, so have him doing all type like. How y'all doing, Chicago? What's up? What's up? What's up? All right. First of all, I see there are some women here. Let's acknowledge the ladies in the room. All right. That are not supposed to be here. They told me it was a men-only event. Yeah, and I left my wife, and she was coming, but thank God she didn't come because I parked in the main structure, and the instructions to get here were not right. She would still be walking right now to get here, so I would have to leave her. But it's a beautiful day in Chicago, man. Born and raised Chicago, make some noise. Let's check a room. Let's check a room. First of all, probably the Jackmaster legend was playing music for you. Give him another round of applause. We got any house heads in the building? House heads? Yeah, said you was my lady. Hey, and you. Okay, y'all got your decorum on now. Y'all nobody want to sing house music. But I'm born and raised south side of Chicago. Yeah, but I don't want to disrespect, I know the mayor from out west. Yeah. We got our first out west mayor. He ain't from the west side. We got our mayor from out west, baby. You understand that? It's a beautiful feeling. Yes, indeed. I voted for you, and I live outside the city. But look, now I've been registered at my mama's house forever. But they caught me when I tried to early vote, so now I can't vote for the next city election. Y'all think it's a joke. That's a real story. That's right. My son is here, though, and he's still registered in the city. And, I'm going to use his ID. So, look, we have a wonderful event, man. First of all, let's acknowledge all the fathers. Give each father a round of applause yourselves. It's a misnomer that black fathers are not in their kids' life. If you're a father and you know your kids and they know where you are right now, stand right now and be acknowledged. Fathers, look at these fathers. That's right. And if you couldn't stand for that particular acknowledgement, maybe it's not your fault. Sometimes it's the mama's fault. Who said, oh? It's a lot of guys that would like to be home, but if you were a kid and you said about your mom, boy, whenever I can get out this woman's house, I'm gone. Well, some of them fathers had to go. But we're going to have a fantastic event. Fatherhood is it is my greatest joy. That's why my son is here with me now, man. And for any guy that's really not in your kid's life, I don't understand how you allow that to happen once you look in that baby's eyes and see yourself in that person, man. And the surrogate fathers in the room, and these surrogate fathers, stepfathers, let's talk about that. Yeah, that's a job in itself. Yeah, stepfather, you end up signing up for things that you might not have understood you was going to be signed up for. Yeah, you might have thought, if I like this lady and I love her so much that I'm going to take care of her and her kids, but you ain't think it through. Yeah, if dude was a deadbeat dad, guess what else he gonna be? A deadbeat granddad. Now you pop, and he in Tulum somewhere being a deadbeat granddad. But that we have some, I'm talking about my life now. Look at y'all. Y'all got a little quiet on that one. When you wake up stepping on some Legos when you should be on white sand, you understand what I meant. But we have a full day of first of all, a great panel and entertainment going this evening. So I need y'all to loosen up. I know, it's a mayoral situation, but we still Chicagoans, right? Yeah, we in Soldier Field. Yeah, some of us ain't never even been in Soldier Field. Welcome. Welcome to your first trip to Soldier Field, people. They passed them tickets down for generations. And we don't want to come out to September anyway, so thank God that they're planning a dome. Yeah. I know the president of the Bears is supposed to be here like, hey, watch you don't want to come here. Yeah, but, we not cut the same. My melanin don't dictate December games. And I know it's Father's Day. I just want to announce that this Sunday, 4 to 7, we'll be at Navy Pier for the Shy Soul Fest comedy, free outdoor, Ravinia style, out on the blankets, and it's myself and J Deep and Corey Bell and DJ Sundance, legendary Titus MC. So that's free for fathers, yeah. Yeah, because we got to do something for you because ain't nobody else doing it. Mother's Day, a national holiday, let's be real. And it should be. But you can't get a restaurant reservation 2 weeks out from Mother's Day. They'll tell you, nope, booked solid. Father's Day, that afternoon, 3:15, party of 20, right this way. Yup. Y'all know I ain't making that up. That's if they even took you out to eat. Because they trick us, fellas. Talking about, Daddy, you should grill. Then here come your ego. Yeah, I am the best grill around this side. Yeah, get my spatula, my special apron. Let me show you how this goes. Now you don't even realize you cooking for you on your own holiday. Your mama ain't never cooking on Mother's Day. So, without further ado, we have to get the proceedings going. Coming to the stage, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Chicago, Garion Gatewood. Please welcome Mr. Gatewood. I think he's the first Deputy Mayor, isn't he? Yeah, first ever Deputy Mayor.
Afternoon, evening, fellas and gentlemen. How we doing? I have the pleasure of introducing our mayor, and I'm going to say a few words about him before he comes up. Because, you know, as Damon mentioned, I'm the first ever Deputy Mayor of Community Safety, Garion Gatewood, and it's a very important job, right? But my most important job is being a father. I sat down with my kids before I took this job, and I'm certain that the mayor sat down with his kids and wife before taking this job as well. You know, and one of the things my kids tell me is they say, yo, if you can go out and help people, you go out and do it. And I have the pleasure of working with a man who wakes up every single day only motivated to help people throughout the city of Chicago. Every day he shows up to work, regardless of what the internet says, regardless of what people say, all the way in Kentucky, all the way in Indonesia. This man shows up to work every day solely focused on helping people in the city of Chicago. The mayor who's been ahead of the first ever bond deal of $1.25 billion, right, investing in his people. The mayor who's from out west and lets you know everywhere he goes, that's where he's from, and he represents it because he loves his people. He loves fathers, he loves kids, he loves his wife, he loves people, and he loves this city. You don't get that everywhere. We have an opportunity to serve this mayor as he serves the entire city of Chicago, and he's changing the way we operate, the way we show up, the way we deliver services to people. We don't get to do that without a leader like this, without a father like this, because he leads as a father as he leads his children, right? So he understands the importance of making sure we have the talent around us to deliver what the city of Chicago has been missing. And I get the pleasure of waking up to work for him every day. This is a leader that you couldn't pay someone to write the kind of leader that Y'all don't like me talking about the leader of the city of Chicago? All right, but honestly, in all seriousness, we couldn't ask for a better mayor for this time, for the things he's led us through, and it's only the beginning, y'all. The things that he's been able to accomplish in the first year, folks will write stories and books about this because people sat in office for years and could not imagine to get the things done that this man has gotten done. Who he doesn't take credit for. He wakes up and he does the work. I'm honored, I'm privileged to welcome up the mayor of the greatest freaking city in the world, Mayor Brandon Johnson.
Wow, thank you so much. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. I have, had the privilege of serving as mayor of the city of Chicago over the last year and a couple of months, and it's really been a tremendous joy. But one of the things, though, that keeps me motivated, really, it's this room of knowing that there are people who are showing up for our families every single day. And so I want to say on behalf of the city of Chicago, happy Father's Day, and well done, brothers. So I promise you, no speech tonight. I really just wanted to make sure that the people of Chicago know emphatically that building a better, stronger, safer Chicago really requires us to do it through the lens and the experiences of people but particularly fathers. And there's so much to be said about all of the challenges that we are experiencing in the city of Chicago, of which no one in this room created. I'm going to just say that one more time. Of all of the peril that we are experiencing in the city of Chicago, there's not one person in this room that created those challenges. And all of us in this room are responsible to help transform and change this city, though. But that's the beauty of this moment, is because we are showing up. And, fathers, you do it in a way that no one else does. That in many instances, you do it quietly, you do it with subtlety, you do it with restraint. And so from our investments in housing, from our investment, as Gary and Gatewood has said, a $1.25 billion bond, the largest bond in the history of Chicago for housing and economic development, of which we've already delivered $10 million of investments on the west and south sides of Chicago. And we're just getting started. And then the work that we're doing to make sure that our young people are seen and valued and heard. We hired almost 25,000 young people last summer, and now we are in a position to raise that another 20%, hiring 28,000 young people for summer jobs. And then finally, before we bring up our panel, I just want to lift up how important it is that we put our arms around one another. I dedicate this Father's Day not just to my father, my grandfather, but to my older brother, Leon, who unfortunately had untreated trauma and died addicted and unhoused. The language that his niece has that he never met, to actually be able to express the pain and the trauma that he experienced and did not have an outlet for it. I believe his life was cut short because of that. But in his honor, though 2 administrations ago, mental health clinics were closed, we just reopened a mental health clinic on the south side of Chicago in Roseland. And then we are also providing mental health support services at the Legler Library on the west side of the city of Chicago, and of course, the lower west side, Pilsen Clinic. But tonight is an opportunity for us just to hear from fathers about their experiences and the hopes and aspirations that we do have. Thank you, Maurice, for your gift. Really, thank you for your gift, Maurice. Thank you, man. I've known you, and I haven't seen a ruffled shirt like that since the 80s, man. That's just, it's popping, man. Look, that ain't my job tonight. I'm just saying, if those cameras weren't on, man, this brother's sexy. I mean, that's something. You get a certain age, you just start buttoning up all the way to the top. It's like something happens to a brother, they turn 50, they just, buttons don't button, and the earrings be dripping, and just tattoos all over. I'm like, is he celebrating Father's Day, or is he flirting with the few women that are here tonight? Like, what's happening? But thank you. And then, of course, Damon Williams, man, Shoto, got a chance to meet him last year. And, since we met, his love and his conviction for the city of Chicago, 31 years, you all, in the industry, and never left his home base in Chicago. So thank you. And then he raised one of the most radical human beings on the planet, his son Damon, who I've got a chance to do some great work with. I didn't even know that was your father. It explains why you did not let anybody know that your father was a comedian, as he's walking around here like doing what he does. But thank you for your love. But so let's get on with the conversation. Y'all ready to hear the perspectives of black men tonight? Yeah, let's do it. So look, I've always wanted my own talk show. So. You become mayor and people just let you do whatever you want. It's like, maybe I get a chance to, I don't know, be the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears. I don't know. All your dreams can come true tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for our mayor, please. Up here. He's trying to take my job. Next year he could do 5. That shirt does say, never meant to give you any problem. But anyway, we need to bring our panelists to the stage, man. But give it up for our mayor one more time. All jokes aside. We have a very esteemed panel, and I think I've been invited to sort of contribute,
Yeah, please.
join the panel as well.
That's what we did. So we booked Damon to be the stand-up comedian, and I said, don't tell him I want him on the panel because he might charge us an extra $5. So we just going to pull you in, brother. We'll pay you later, I promise.
And that's all right. Just we talk about that boot list. You just make a few phone calls and take care of that. You know, I can joke and panel all evening. If you could just remove that speed camera from Nikki's on 103rd and Western, that continues to be a thorn in my side, then we can get your initiatives in order, sir. Do you have them? Oh, you have one? Okay, good. This is going to be a great time, man. Let's give it up for everybody involved with this, the volunteers and everybody for real. Clap for the people involved. Farley.
40 years of house music.
Yes, sir.
Okay, wow, this is getting out of control. Just random people, like the voice of God. Apparently, God loves house music. Who was that? Y'all give it up for our DJ Farley, one more time. Thank you. 40 years house music. So let's do this real quick. We all know Damon Williams. Why don't we it's just a cut to it. How about we give each panelist an opportunity just to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get right into it. We'll start with you, Corporate. Go right ahead.
Blessings. My name is Corporate, and I'm an artist and entertainer from Chicago. On God.
Yeah. Come on, y'all. Give it up for Corporate, y'all. Michael.
I'm Mike Strautmanis, and I'm the executive vice president at the Obama Foundation. I hope somebody is taking a picture so that I can show my kids that I'm right next to Corporate. They're going to treat me a lot different.
You will get some views.
Mr. Warren.
My name is Kevin Warren. I'm the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears. I absolutely love Chicago. I love the mayor, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thank you all for being here. So Mr. Kevin Warren, let's just start with you. We have a series of questions here. We probably won't get to all of them tonight, but if you could just share, just briefly, 45 seconds, a minute or so, just what is the one joy or the couple of joys that fatherhood provides for you?
I think the joy of fatherhood is that there's no roadmap. Every family is different. Every child is different. We've been blessed with 2 children, a boy and a girl in their mid-20s. And what it does, it forces you to humble yourself every single day. There's no template, and it forces you to become a good listener, to be passionate. And I would say it's one of the things in life that you will never master, but you have an opportunity to be better at, and to have the responsibility to lead some young people. And I just know my kids, they go by more kind of what they see instead of what they hear. And so that's something every single day. That's my number one focus, to be the best father that I possibly can be every single day.
Yeah, right on. Some of the joys, Michael?
You know, I think the joys for me is, one of the great joys for me, I have 3 children. One of them lives with autism. And I think that being a father has frankly taught me more about myself, as I've had the opportunity to attempt to do this thing, to play this role without a playbook. You know, there's so many leadership positions that we take on where whether there's a real playbook or not, you know, the idea is, okay, well, I know what a mayor is. I know what a CEO and president is. I know the leader of an industry or a group is. Being a father has presented me with a bunch of challenges that nobody really was able to give me a playbook on, and this idea was it was on me to lead. And what I've learned through that is leadership is much more of an opportunity to listen and to learn than anything else. And the things that I've been able to do with my children have been things we've been able to learn and experience together, which has bonded us in a way that is really profound and special.
No, both of you and Kevin spoke about not having a playbook as just part of the joy, the excitement of just pretty much going to the line of scrimmage and just calling a play right there on the line. But the bond and learning together Much different generation, because I'm not always sure if the generation before us, at least were willing to express how they can learn with us. In fact, I learned a lot from my father, and I appreciate him, but I'm not quite sure if, as you all described, if my father was willing to participate in that growth, at least out loud. Did I say that as diplomatically as possible? You can tell my father, 82 years old, and I'm still real careful, just in case he's listening. But corporate, this idea of not having a playbook, has that been your experience? And do you find joy in the discovery of fatherhood?
Absolutely. One of the joys that I have as far as being a father is just knowing that I am contributing to changing a narrative. My personal experience as far as with my father wasn't one of the best, but it caused trauma. But in the midst of such a dark place, I was able to find a beautiful energy. And that's an energy that I put into my own children to take that blueprint for what a father wasn't supposed to do and reverse it. So all of the things that I may hold resentment for in my heart that I didn't receive when I was younger, I put that into my children. I sow seeds. I put energy into their growth, their development, and enhancing their minds, just to know that I am doing exactly what should have been done for me. It's one of the greatest joys that I could ever hold with that, for sure.
Wow, that's what's up. Yeah, yeah. So, Damon, you know, you have traveled all over the country. I would imagine there were times when, I'm just imagining, you know, that travel and, you know, bringing so much joy to so many other people did not always keep you in position to be there every single time. I know that's something that many fathers deal with, whether you're on the road or you work down the street. But have you been able to manage, even with giving so much joy to other people, to receive that joy in your experience as a father?
Absolutely. It started at his birth because we didn't do an ultrasound, and so I had no idea, you know, what I was having, you know. And when you're at the childbirth and the head comes out and then the shoulders come out and then you see the nuggets, you're like, a boy, you know. So I was so happy. I don't know how I would have reacted if it was a girl. I only have one son, and no disrespect to women, but my joy has been this young man. But it starts with love. You know, you don't have to have a playbook if you come from a place of love, but you also have to be very strategic and careful, and because you can damage a human being, because they believe everything. When you're from 0 to 5, 6, 7, any word your father said, any word your parents said, you take that as fact and rule and law. And we don't know all the answers, and we don't have all the, you know, the right things to say. So fortunately, it worked out. And yeah, seriously, you know, it could have went either way. You know, it's just outside Chicago. Yeah.
Well, let's stay there though, Damon, for a second. You know, it's not just not having a playbook, but when you get it wrong, what responsibility do you have as a father? Well, let me ask you this way: have you experienced your son recognizing that you didn't get it right in a situation or a circumstance, and how did that guide you in your relationship when they find out and discover that all of your answers aren't right, or every single answer may not lead to the best conclusion?
Well, he's clearly far more intelligent than I am right now, but I think I did pretty well. You know, I think I got it right most of the time. But in the times when I felt like, to your point about being on the road and being gone, there was one particular circumstance where he had told me early on in his senior year that senior night is this night, and he allowed me to miss a lot of other things, but senior night needed to be there. Well, I got booked. It was a tour. The tour had one of the dates on senior night, and he's like, oh, man. He never expressed disappointment. He'd always, you know, hold it in. But this time he's like, man, it's senior night. I told you a long time ago, and I could hear in his voice that he really needed me to be there. So I told the promoter I had to cancel the show. And the promoter said, and this is an older white guy, he was like, well, couple of my daughters play high school sports. I completely understand, and he let it go, so I didn't get sued. And but I also missed that check for senior night.
Wow. You coming to cash it eventually.
Yeah. You know, he was in private school. He almost didn't make it to senior graduation after I missed that check. All jokes aside, though, man, you know, you don't get it all right, but if you have a relationship and it comes from a place of love, then I think that conquers all.
So, Corporate, you mentioned, you know, having traumatic experiences, and appreciate you, you know, actually expressing that and being vulnerable enough, you know, to admit that for too many of our young people, there are these traumatic encounters with fathers. Even though, and I'm glad Damon mentioned this earlier, black fathers, even fathers who are not in the home every day, show up more for their children and are more involved in their children's lives than their white and brown counterparts. So it's important that we lift that up, that even though, you know, in the public schools, for instance, of black children, 87% of black children have homes that are headed by women. However, black men show up for their children. But these traumatic experiences, you were getting to a point of using that experience to reverse the trend. And you talk about joy. Can you tell me, if you're willing to, about some of those traumatic experiences that you had that gave you better insight that when you do show up for your children, it's a direct response to flipping that trauma into something powerful?
Absolutely. One particular trauma that I endured during childhood is feeling like my father didn't put the energy into me and my endeavors that I saw him put into other people. It's very easy for a child to feel like they're neglected, or, you know what I'm saying, like you don't care. And that feeling it traveled with me all the way as far back as 5th grade, all the way into adulthood. And with me just understanding that reality for me, I make sure that every moment with my daughters, I create something special. Because I remember stuff you wouldn't expect you to remember when you're young, you remember years later, far into your adulthood. So even with little moments like me and my oldest baby, Brazil, we have this thing where we big bank take little bank. And whatever I got in my pocket, whatever she got in her pocket, whoever got the biggest amount, the other one, you know what I'm saying, acquires, you feel me? And she takes a lot of pride in that. And she always see if she could, you know what I'm saying, catch me lacking. And one day, she caught Daddy lacking. I think I probably only had $26 in my pocket, and she probably had a couple hundred. And I remember, you know what I'm saying, she quickly repossessed my funds. And I remember just watching her skip into the house and just how happy she was. And I know that that's something that she's going to talk about when she get older. Like, I remember playing big bank, take little bank with my daddy, and that first time, that one time I caught him lacking, like, it put so much joy in her heart. You know, so as far as, like, coming back from the trauma that I experienced, it prompts me to make sure that all moments, as many moments as possible, I create beautiful and memorable moments for all 3 of my daughters, for sure.
Yeah, that's what's up. Let me just ask, you know, just maybe by just a nod or show of hands, have any other fathers experienced that kind of joy when your child wins? Yeah, that feels good, right?
For sure.
Feels good. And thank you for sharing that. And I think, you know, to that point, you know, Michael, we'll come to you. The prioritization of being a parent while also faced with just the societal challenges. You know, corporate is talking about just trauma. Yeah. You know, Damon is talking about, you know, look, life calls, I got to provide for my family. And in some instances, there's some conflict between the role, the societal challenges that you have, and just making sure that you're prioritizing and showing up.
Yeah.
for your children. That's a real challenge.
It is.
And how have you been able to navigate that as a father?
Well, I got a lesson in DNA because my father left our family before I was born. And I got to know him really when I was about 40 years old. And I kept hearing from my half-sister when I would do things, how I would laugh, what I would say. She'd say, oh, that's exactly what Daddy would say. Or that's exactly how Daddy would laugh. And I cannot tell you how much I hated to hear that. But as I got to know him and I recognized that there were things that he had passed on to me that were in my DNA, but there were other things that were in my DNA. Trauma was in my DNA. You know, how he needed to show up for his family as a father, his father, his father's father, his father's father's father may not have even been able to acknowledge or keep that he had his family because of the systems that I've been living in and dealing with in this country. And so what I found is, even though I wanted to do what you've done and create a different story, I found that society, life, challenges had me go into my coping mechanisms. And my coping mechanisms were the same coping mechanisms also that my father has. Having a drink, finding a way to numb myself after a hard day, after a problem, after dealing with something on the street. And I think what I have learned through a lot of therapy and a lot of prayer is that our DNA can also change, that I can write a different story, and that there are things that I can end right here, right now, and learn the lessons because I'm here. I worked for the first black president of the United States. The things that allowed me to do that are also in me. The resilience, the vision, the hustle, the willingness to just fake it until I make it and believe in myself. And so I think what I've really tried to do is, and look, the only person, the individual that has allowed me to heal the most, besides on top of my therapist, instead of my therapist, above my therapist, has been my wife. And I've had to be honest with her about the things that I'm scared of, and the mistakes that I've made, and the things that I'm not proud of, as well as my triumphs. And so I guess the answer to your question, Mayor, and by the way, I hope they do give you a show after this, because you're really good at that. And also, by the way, I don't know how old you are, but you're freaking me out with how intelligent you are. I'll wrap this up just by saying that what I think I've been able to do is accept the responsibility and the opportunity to grow, and realize that I'm not static. And people like you, and now you, and you and others allow me to believe and see that that's real.
Wow, thank you. Yeah. Okay, Kevin Warren, I mean, you know, these brothers are certainly, expressing, in a very vulnerable, honest, and brilliant way about how the societal challenges, as well as traumatic experiences they've been able to turn those experiences into triumph. You are in a position that is, quite frankly, it's rare. I mean, most black men won't ever get to experience the rooms that you experience. Some of the most powerful people in the country, right? And how has, your role as president, CEO, executive, how has that role given you the ability to understand the most important dynamic in the prioritization of being a father? Do you ever find yourself experiencing, and I'll just be blunt, white supremacy and just general societal challenges do you ever see those experiences along with whatever trauma you may have experienced as a motivator to show up for your children? Do you find yourself perhaps being harder on yourself or your children based upon what you see? And the reason why I ask that is because I think about, my father, and sometimes he never articulated what society was doing to him. We just knew it was doing something to him. I don't know about you all, but my father was James Evans. It's like every night ended with damn. I mean, and you're in rooms where you see all this mess going on and you're trying to show up for our people in the best possible way, but there are people who are counting on you, your children. How has those societal experiences either motivated you or challenged you in your role of showing up for your children?
Mary, I mean, we could write a movie and a book, off of that question. You're talking about the best question. I know for me, and I have to kind of go forward so many times, I would say all of us here, people view us how we are now, and they think that's how we grew up. And so one of the things I had to recognize, and early on in my life, I don't want to say I was ashamed of it, but I was very cognizant and conscious not to talk about it. And it was probably not until I got into college that I started recognize, as what Michael said, is really to embrace our DNA. And so if you did the scouting report on me, on my father's side, my grandfather, second grade education, the story is that he shot someone in Texas over an issue, what they said to my grandmother, left Texas, because I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. People say, man, I don't even know black people from Phoenix. And I told him we didn't move there by choice. He had to get out there. He would have got lynched. But to move to Phoenix, was an entrepreneur, was a porter at the Lures Hotel in Arizona, worked 17 years, 7 days a week, never missed a day of work. Grandmother was a homemaker, teacher. And then on my mom's side, my grandmother is from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. And, I think that's one of the reasons why I love tequila. You're talking about in your DNA so much. But she migrated across the border, met my grandfather, who was a soldier at Fort Huachuca. They got married. When my mom was in 8th grade, you're talking about leaving home. My mom came home from school, and my grandfather was gone. We've never seen him again, so I never met him. So a lot of people look at me now in this position, in these jobs, and they think that I went to private school, and, they expect me to start going by my middle initial, because, that's how brothers do as they get older and promotions, and they start going like a letter with a period and going by, they got to change their name. But, I went to public school my whole life, and but I say that to say, but one of the things I think, and I learned this from my dad as far as what I wish he would have done for me. He was a fantastic father, was an educator, so education was really important. My mom was an educator, but I wish my dad had sat down and told us what it means to be a black man in America. He told stories about it, but he never directed it. And so I talked to my kids early on, and even recently, I told them there always takes a unique individual. You got to start in your family, and then you start in your community and culture that has to break the cycle. So when I looked at my immediate family, I'm the youngest of 7 kids. All 6 of my siblings have been divorced, some multiple times. I'm not judging it, it's just factual. My parents got divorced at 49 years and 9 months. You're talking about trauma that when, and it was when I had just gotten engaged to my wife. Now we've been married 32 years, but 6 months before we get ready.
Clap it up, 32 years,
Yeah.
Well done.
But, 6 months before we get ready to get married, my parents called me, and they're getting divorced 3 months before their 50th wedding anniversary. So you're talking about trauma. So there are a couple things. One, I wanted to make sure we broke the marriage cycle. That was important. But even from a business and
The
financial...
marriage cycle of divorce.
Of marriage cycle of
Yeah, I
divorce,
want to
yes.
clarify.
Yes.
He said break the marriage cycle.
Well,
Hold on a second.
I mean, from divorce, of divorce. But
there's
even
still
from a
hope
career
after
standpoint, so
49 years.
I told my children is that I cannot be all things to you all, okay? So being that I'm not going to be home at 3 o'clock when you get home from school, but here's what I'm going to do. I drove my kids to school every day all the way up until basically they went to college. So that was my time because I have a little bit more control over time. But I told them, me, Kevin, your dad is working on some things that I'm trying to change the world. And anytime you try to change the world, it's lonely. And we've been in this position. You got to be really strong and durable and vibrant and have grit. And I think a lot of times there is some guilt that society will try to put on you that, you know, you're working too much, but I can't do everything. And so what I'm trying to do is, yes, be there for the kids, but I'm also trying to make them durable. One of the things I have concern about a lot of young folks coming along, and you're talking about getting vulnerable, is that we're raising a very soft generation, and the world that we live in, we got to be durable on this deal. And so I just wanted my kids, yes, I'm there. I pray for you morning, noon, night. I can do what I can do, but what I'm trying to do is for us to break this cycle of, one, to make sure whether it's divorce, you know, whether it's alcohol issues. I got a brother right now on the streets in Phoenix dealing with a crack addiction. So I have a lot of guilt because there are days as far as like, what more can I do? And I've done all I can do. He recently reached out to a doctor who called me about him moving to Chicago. I said no, because with what I'm trying to do here for the betterment of our family and society and these people in Chicago, I can't have no nonsense here. Now, if you get yourself right, I'll help you in rehab, and you have 1 to 2 years and you're clean, then yeah, you can come. But then the family will put guilt on you like we're too good. That's not the case. So I say that to say, if there's young people in here too, you will know when you're in a unique time. All of us up here on this panel, what you're dealing with, you got a bunch of history makers up here. And when you're making history, you can't do everything. It's not for everyone. But when you get an opportunity, my hope and prayer is that one day my kids will recognize that I did the best job I could be as a father, not only for them, but to make the world a better place.
Wow. So just 1.5 more questions. Are we okay on time? I think we're okay here. I mean, I think I know the person who got the keys to the building, so we good, right? But I do want to ask just 2 more quick questions. I guess this first one, maybe not so quick. Michael, we'll come back to you. Is that okay? Because I think this is important about, you know, what Kevin said. Sometimes as fathers, we do feel a level of guilt because, you know, we carry that trauma with us. There are some days where the load is a little bit lighter, and showing up for our children, showing up for our families, showing up for our community, you know, as black fathers, especially if there's a degree of success, people expect you, I think to Kevin's point, to be all in everything for everyone all the time. And that becomes weighty. And creating a healthy environment where your children and their mental health is prioritized. Because, look, there are some times when I have conversations with my father, and God bless him, especially 10, 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. Once my father became a grandfather, first of all, he became the nicest human being on the planet. Like, to me, that's just so bogus. You know, get grandkids, and all of a sudden, you know, yeah, it's like, I didn't even know you liked kids until I had them. I think I was disciplining my nephew one time. My father was like, it don't take all that. I'm like, since when? When did you get that discovery? But creating an environment where sometimes when you're not always you're not able to be everything for your children all the time, some of the stuff that my father did or did not do, most of the times he didn't even remember the offense. Right. He was like, man, I did that for real? Well, I was probably, you know, but today, as Kevin said, that we don't want to create a generation that's coddled. However, we don't want a generation, though, that holds in the trauma that could be caused by us or others to dictate how they make decisions. So how have you as a father, while also making sure that you're developing them so that they don't become, so dependent that they can't grow, how do you create healthy environments to ensure that their mental health is protected?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, the way I think about this is, if your home is your castle, you've got to draw a moat around it. And you, as the parent, are responsible for what crosses that moat. I'm not going to let everything on the internet come into my house. I'm not going to let everybody...
Corbett just rolled his eyes. He was like, this brother
wants
here.
to come into my house. I have to, and I think one of the challenges we're having as a society right now is that people feel like they're losing control of the ability to create those boundaries for our children. And what I'd say is that, but as you have that moat, wherever it is, that circle, you also have to let I also try to let my children explore to the edge of that moat, right? I'm creating that boundary so I don't have to keep them right here. Because if I have to keep them right here, then they're never going to be able to function. One of the things that Mrs. Obama's mother, God rest her soul, Mrs. Robinson said to her, which she said to us, was that you're not raising children, you're raising small to-be adults. And so when you're making a decision, you have to ask yourself, is that decision going to work for my child as they become an adult? And so, and this is probably something we all deal with, you mentioned it. I've got family members, people who were part of loving me when I was a child, being there for me as my family was broken, who I can't let around my children. And
yeah, that's okay. Clap it up. Everybody don't get to.
And
right.
part of my job is to absorb that pain. Be mad at me. Be mad at me. Blame me. Talk about me. Say whatever you need to say about me. It's not going to be anybody else's fault. It's my fault. And I loved and I just want to reinforce something Kevin said. Be clear about what the pathway is to participate. If you treat my children with respect, if you treat my wife with respect, if you treat my home with respect, no matter what you got going on, or no matter what you did, you're welcome here. We got a space for you here. I'm going to let you, I'm going to let you move in. I'm going to let you, I'm going to be a part of this because we're a part of the same family and the same community, but there are rules to this. Because at the end of the day, what I can't have happen is at 18, 19, 20 years old, watch my child go through the same stuff because I didn't give them a chance to grow and understand that wasn't okay. That's what I can't do. And so that is something, as I said, that's one of the things I was thinking about when I said there's no playbook, because that's more of an art than a science. And the only thing that you can do is get on your knees and ask for forgiveness for the things you did right or wrong, and ask God to walk with you on the next challenge that he's going to bring your way tomorrow. That's really been the pathway for me.
Yeah, that's powerful. No, thank you for that. Mental health in and of itself can be protected by just making sure that we are protecting what our children digest. Now, Damon, this might be a little bit unfair question because I happen to know your son, who's done some amazing work in the city of Chicago, organizing, challenging systems, political systems. I don't want to assume this, but I have to imagine you have to worry about them sometimes, right? So, and if you don't worry about them, I do, but real talk though, making sure that your child's mental health and well-being is centered and secure, and doing that while giving him space to be who he is. How did you do that? And then do you worry that even with the mental health support that you have offered, giving him the ability to share, to express his frustrations, how do you balance protecting his mental health while also making sure as Michael is getting at least set some parameters and some boundaries so that when he's 20, as he was growing, that he's not in a situation that you believe he could have avoided had you fill in the blank?
Well, I think a lot of times we as adults feel like we should have dominion over our children, and what I say goes. And, you know, I always talk to him as a human being and as a person, and I gave him the realest perspective. I always told him, don't fall for the matrix, because the masters are doing this. I always taught him to go the other way when trouble is taking place, as opposed to being a witness to it. It's usually the person who is the innocent bystander that catches the stray. You know, so I had these type of conversations. I was a street guy for a long time. You know, I know you probably can't tell, Mr. Mayor. But so I had those. I tried to shield him. I told him all the mayhem and any crime that was going to be taking place in our family had already been done. All right? So, no, seriously, it's real talk. I mean, you know, the Kennedys did it. But anyway, yeah, I'm Papa Kennedy in that house. So I gave him the perspective of being as realistic as I could. But you also try to provide an environment where that you do shield them from the things that you don't want them to absorb. Early on, we kind of kept hip-hop music out the house, but you cannot protect them from the streets. So if you lay the solid foundation, you give them the blueprint at home, then you hope it takes, and fortunately for me, it did. But you also let them know the repercussions and what the consequences of their actions, and you let them sometimes deal with that on their own.
Well, corporate, it goes back to something that, you know, Kevin was saying, and it's my experience as well, where I understood intuitively my father's fear and frustration, but he didn't explain it, right? And so I remember my father, I don't know if any of you have ever heard this before. I remember my father saying something to me and my brothers. He said, and I quote, "I'm going to get you." It's not an exact quote, but you get my point. "I'm going to get you so they don't get you." And so I was like, wait a minute. So I'm supposed to be more afraid of the police or anyone else than you, but you're scaring me right now because they haven't done anything to me. But there was behavior that we were manifesting that he understood. Behaving like that outside here, I have to correct it, because if I don't, somebody else will, and there will be harder repercussions as a result of that. And so as much as I appreciate that now that I'm, 48 years old, I wasn't always clear how safe I really was, because I was raised to be afraid of what could happen. And there were things out there that obviously that could happen. So how do you not only create stronger mental health support for your daughters, for your children, creating boundaries, but also giving them some explanation? Or do you offer up more explanation, even in the midst of creating this safe space where they can be vulnerable with you, of why daddy is not, as Damon said, I don't have dominion necessarily where I have to dictate everything, but here's why these parameters exist?
Absolutely. It's actually a recent situation that occurred. My oldest baby just graduated from 8th grade, and I allowed her to
Let's give it up for the 8th grade graduation.
For sure.
Because in Chicago, them kindergarten, 8th grade graduations be lit.
For sure.
Yeah.
Nobody holds the applause.
For sure. And I allowed her to have a party. And some peers of hers, they were having a party on the exact same day. And it caused a bit of commotion in regard to, statements being thrown back and forth as far as what party is these people going to, or what party those people are going to. And her peer, they made a post saying that they were going to have a special guest at their party to try to drive traffic in their direction. And I guess Brazil got word of who the special guest was, and from what I understand, that person didn't really hold much relevancy. So Brazil posts on her Instagram like, "Oh, that's who y'all was getting?" And when I got word of this, her mama called me. I'm like, say less. I called Brazil. I was like, now, and this is where a life lesson came in a very simple, everyday scenario. I had to let her know, like, Brazil, humility. Humility is very important. The energy that you put out into the universe is what you get back. How you were supposed to respond to that was, you know, I'm just throwing a party to celebrate my 8th grade graduation. I understand that you're having a party on the same day. I wish you the best of success with your party. Anybody that goes to your party, I pray that they have the best of a time. Anybody that comes to mine, you're going to have a great time. And leave it at that. When you put negative energy out, that's what you get back. And it's crazy because, and it's a blessing to have open lines of communication and a solid relationship with your children, because I have her Instagram password. And it's not in a sneaky fashion. She know daddy got an Instagram password. And after I gave her that piece of advice, about an hour later, I see a notification about one of her peers pressing her about the shade that she had posted on her Instagram. Just that quick. The lesson that I gave to her, it came back just that quick. And I said, you see what happened? Now imagine if you'd have just congratulated them on their, you know what I'm saying, event that they was having. You wouldn't have even had to deal with that. So, of course, she had her party busting. Busting to the point where the police had to come and shut it down because it was too many people in there. But at the end of the day, that was just a simple scenario where I just had to teach her about humility and putting positive energy out into the air at all times. So I just constantly communicate with my children. Every opportunity that I see to put something on their mind and spirit to enhance their way of thinking and how they operate, I hop on it right away.
Yeah, that's wonderful. No, I mean, that humility is key, right?
And for the older people, busting mean it was really lit. It was.
I got like 5 words to ask him about afterwards already.
Well, the whole time, that wasn't my issue. My issue is that his daughter had an illegal party outside of the city of Chicago, and I'm just thinking, oh Lord,
Allegedly.
you know, allegedly. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I allegedly spent $30,000 on hair and makeup, right?
See how that worked?
right.
But
So
your mohawk is busted.
You can get the staff come up here and shut this down.
No, right. So Kevin, you actually provoked that last question, so I'll just give you the last word on this. You know, creating, those boundaries, as you mentioned, not always, things were not explained, but, just the mental health and the mental well-being of your children. Real talk, when we talk about just sort of generational curses, mental, illness, there are clear examples in my family. I talked about my older brother. The language didn't exist back in the day. And so the reason why, this question was provocated, and I've shared this in the op-ed that I wrote, pandemic is coming to an end. We've been in the house together as a family for almost 2 years. My daughter is 7 years old at the time. We're going back and forth. I don't even know what the disagreement was over, because I don't think a grown man should have a disagreement with a 7-year-old anyways. So we're going back and forth, and she just interrupted the conversation, and she said, "Dad, you're triggering me," which was just transformational language. And, I was provoked, right, because my knee-jerk reaction was, "I got your trigger, little girl," right? But I was thinking, like, for her to feel that comfortable that I am her, I'm her first form of authority. And so she had language to say, look, this don't feel right. And that, again, her uncle, who she never met, never had that language. And if he were in a position where he could tell my father, his father, who he was named after, like, Daddy, this don't feel good. They just called him lazy, you eat too much, what's wrong with you? And the mental well-being of my brother was just never addressed. How have you been able to address it? And have there been real-life experiences and examples where your children have come to you and said, whether they said, Daddy, this hurts, I'm triggered, and how were you able to handle that as father?
Yeah, again, another great question is my focus is I recognize every single day I'm trying to train my children, and I know some people may call it controlling or whatever. I'm trying to train them to the point where, because based upon how I treat their mom, that will send the message to my daughter
Yeah, give it up right
how,
there.
how
That's
she
it.
should be treated. And based upon how I treat their mom, my wife, will send a message to my son as far as what a healthy relationship looks like. And so I just view, I would hope, and I've challenged some of my close friends, and I would challenge people up here to write your eulogy. And I would hope in my eulogy that my kids would say, my dad's actions had more of an impact than any book, movie, any other person that I met, you know, based upon how he handled their mom, how he handled work, how he handled his finances, how he handled his faith, all of those different things. So in my mind, every single day, I recognize that I will be my children's greatest teachers, and I don't want to underestimate that. And I always, and maybe this is selfish, but I always looked at my kids, I didn't want to put them in a position that they had to learn lessons from other people. I should be the one to be able to have my life in a manner of being straight with them, that I could be a good teacher to them. And whatever that is, relationships, substance abuse, travel, school, education, money, finances. So as I've gotten older, I recognize we as fathers have an opportunity to build, the greatest students we'll ever have a chance to teach are our kids and our great-grandkids. And Michael, what you said, sometimes just like in school, you may have a year that's not as good as the other one, and it doesn't keep you away from graduating. And because sometimes the pressure on black fathers, if you're not a perfect father, whatever that perfection is, then it's all your fault and all your responsibility. I think we need to recognize, no different than why people love football, is because the greatest players, the ones who get a chance to put on that gold jacket, are the ones who can clear the last play and go on to the next one and not carry it forward. And so what I try to do every single day with my children is to make sure I don't carry forward even some of the great things today or the not so great things today to tomorrow, is to make sure that we start fresh. And you know, we have, I mean, the word teaches about that every day we get a chance to start fresh and we get a chance to be the best that we possibly can be.
Wow, let's give it up for this wonderful panel. Come on, we can do better than that. Let's give it up for this wonderful panel. Damon, Corporate, Michael, Kevin. The Arsenio Hall show. So before, just please quickly have a seat. I just want to thank you all personally. This is the first of many conversations to celebrate fatherhood. You know, Kevin, I think you've given us our assignment. What do we want our children to say about us? What will they say about us? You know, I often think about, you know, my role as a father. You know, I feel like I have a responsibility to prepare my children, to provide for them, and to protect them. Prepare, provide, and protect. Men, as you leave this room, I want us to think about what Kevin said, maybe not as morbidly like in a eulogy, you know, but when you are celebrating your 80th birthday, or when you are a grandfather one day, what will your children say to their children about you as a father? I want to thank two of our alders that are here. Y'all give it up for the alderman. I don't know if he's still here, but he was here. The alderman of the 5th Ward, Desmond Yancey, was here. Can you all clap it up for him? Oh, there he is. And then, of course, the alderman of the 4th Ward right here, Alderman Lamont Robinson, is here, you all. Was this helpful tonight, fathers? Was this all right? Look. We're celebrating fathers, but we do have another elected official here, my mentor, educator. I'm not the person that I am today if it weren't for this woman who had her classroom next door to mine, and the kids of Cabrini Green got so loud that she could hear them in her classroom. And she busted up into the room while I was trying to teach. And see, she said, y'all not going to run this black man out of this building. And when she closed the door, I said, no, open up your books and let's get back to work. She is the Cook County Commissioner of the 1st District, West Side, Western Suburbs, Cook County Commissioner Tara Stamps. So happy Father's Day. Let's continue to support one another, love one another. Let's build a better, stronger, safer Chicago together. And with that, I'll turn this back over to the twins, Pastor Billy Evans and Damon Williams.
Give it up
Thank
for
you
the
all.
mayor, ladies and gentlemen. Our honorable mayor, please give him another round of applause. Larry's Barber College is in the back, and there are other vendors. They're doing raffles, the 88 space. So we make sure you want to check with the vendors on your way out because he's raffling a pair of Jordans and 2 scholarships, all right, for the Barber College, correct? Yes.
And the last thing, let's give it up again for our panelists. Amazing, amazing panelists. They did an amazing job tonight. And I want you to know that this was the mayor's vision, that we would bring fathers together on Father's Day weekend to celebrate fatherhood. I think that deserves a great round of applause. Yep. So please, again, visit our vendors in the back. We have several vendors. We have some expungement folks back there. We have jobs, opportunities back there, as well as there's a raffle. I don't know if you heard Damon say, but they're raffling some Jordans. So you can go back there, grab a raffle ticket, and enjoy that. As well as before you leave, also make sure you get your validation for your parking. Angelique is in the middle aisle with that parking voucher, so make sure you grab that on your way out as well. Thank you, Chicago, for coming out.